You're listening to the DJ Doran Show, a Doran Omni Media production. Warning, the DJ Doran Show contains adult language, mature content, cerebral debate, and thought-provoking conversation. Listener discretion is advised. Call 312-235-2281 to be a part of the discussion. That's 312-235-2281. And now, Chicago's perspicacious host of your sane radio obsession, DJ Doran.
We're here and we're back, and you're listening to another edition of the DJ Doran Show. I'm your host, DJ Doran, and I'm here with my co-host, who I haven't seen in, a month, right?
It's been a while.
It's been a month because we were in Mexico for a while, but I'm here with Rachel V, and we're going to be talking about impeachment, so it's going to be a doozy of a show. So now, I think there's some echo. Do you hear echo?
Just a tiny bit.
How about now?
Nope.
Do you hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, I don't know. I'm telling you, with this technology, I have to constantly relearn every time we do a show, because you make one little tweak and then all of a sudden you're like, what?
And then nothing fucking works.
That's what I am telling you, So I don't know. Who knows? Test. There. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it alone. It seems to work now. Okay, so today's show, first of all, I know you don't follow the news very much.
Not as much. I mean, I listen to a lot of NPR, but I mean, at times, I just don't sit and really pay attention. So
I know. Today's show we're going to talk about impeachment, right? Which is like
it's the hot button topic, yo.
It's the hot button topic. And here's the thing, on my show, one of the things, that I think makes us different is you have these ideologues, and I'm going to share some polling numbers that'll explain to you exactly why I'm talking about this. They believe what they believe because that's what their party believes, and that's it. And if you look at the polling data, it is literally split down the middle.
Really?
Split down the middle between Republicans and Democrats.
That's kind of fascinating, actually.
So today in the show, we're going to talk about what is impeachment?
Yeah.
What was it intended for? Is it being used properly in this case? What's quid pro quo? And let's learn together. Let's educate ourselves. And in the search for knowledge and wisdom and understanding about this topic, I don't have any ideology. I'm not Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent.
Yeah, you've made that very clear.
But I want to learn about this. It's fascinating to me because if what Trump is doing now is something that other presidents have done, but nobody said anything because that's the way it's been done, then why is it impeachable now? Are they using impeachment as a weapon to wreak havoc because they don't like the outcome of something, i.e. the election, the recent election, or they just don't like him? Because let's face it, Rachel, he's not a very likable guy.
No, not very much so at all.
At all. So regardless, but is this how we want our government to act and behave?
It's a very hard question to answer.
Well, that's what we're going to try.
Yeah.
So first, we're going to learn about impeachment. I have some websites, but before we even begin, I want to pull something up that I think that you guys will be really interested to know. And I thought it was fascinating. And
let's do it.
Okay, so here's a couple of polls, right? I'm just gonna. Let's see if I put it in here. So one is this poll by 538. It's on 538.com. So 5 FIVE 38.com, right? It says, do Americans support impeaching Trump? 47.7 support, 43.8 don't support, right? So it's split literally right down the middle almost, right? But here's the other thing, too, that I thought was fascinating. On realclearpolitics.com, you can see that at a high, it was 52.2% supported, 41.8 did not support, right? That was on October 8th. right? Now we're here based on December 3rd, 48.3, which is down for almost 4 points, don't support impeaching him, and only 44.6% do.
Yeah. Right when it's getting hot and heavy, it's just
the point.
even.
Yeah, I mean it's it's just it's crazy, but that's not even the most interesting thing about this race is. So if you look at these polls, where is it? When I want to find that is so interesting. Come on here. I think it's on Real Clear Politics. You scroll down, the Reuters poll, right? 48.3 support, 44.6 oppose. The Economist, 45 support, 45 oppose. The Quinnipiac poll, 54 support, 42 oppose. Politico, 48 support, 43 oppose.
That's wild.
NPR, right? You like NPR.
I like NPR.
48 support, 46 oppose. Split down the middle, right?
That's just insanity, dude.
CBS News, 53 and 47. Let's look at there was a couple of other ones I thought were interesting. But they're all pretty much the same. But that's not what I wanted to read about. This is something, before we get into impeachment, what's it about? I just want you to understand how split the country is, right? This is what I think that is fascinating. And I hate it when I can't find these things, but
right when you need it.
Right when I need them, but it was a poll on how the Democrats and the Republicans, right? So support for impeachment by party, right? 83.2% Democrats approve, 9.1 Republicans do not, right? Oh, here it is. This is what I was looking for. This is what's really interesting. Do you favor or oppose the U.S. House of Representatives impeaching President Trump? Republicans, 7% yes. 80% no. 88% no. Almost 90% no, right? Democrats, 85% yes. 6% no. Complete mirror image, right?
Yep.
Which of the following comes closest to your opinion? President Trump should be impeached. President Trump should not be impeached, right? Here's the other one. Impeach. Republicans, 7% no. Wait, hold on a second. I got this wrong. Here it is. Republicans. That's just the broad one. So, should President Trump be impeached or not impeached? 44% yes, 42% no. Split, almost down the middle, with independents, bringing up the rear. Do you think the House of Representatives should or should not impeach Donald Trump? Republicans, 7% yes, 86% no. Democrats, 84% yes, 6% no. Do you see what I'm saying? You follow the trend there? Which of the following comes closest to your opinion? President Trump should be impeached. President Trump should not be impeached, right? Republicans, 13% yes, 77% no. That's a little interesting. Because 13% yes is double the other polling numbers, roughly of 7%. Democrats, 79% yes, but here's something that's interesting. 10% no. So it's a little higher, right, in this one. Do you think the U.S. House of Representatives should or should not impeach Donald Trump? Republicans, 10% yes, 81% no. Democrats, 85% yes, 5% no. Independents, 38% yes, 36% no. So the point of it is that this is a completely partisan, ideological impeachment process.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it would seem to me, I don't know, just being common sense and all, that if there really were impeachable offenses, that there would be more Republicans that would say, hey, I want to support the president, but this evidence is incontrovertible.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, clearly he broke the law, so he should.
Right, so I'm not going to vote that he's not to be impeached just because he's Republican, and
exactly.
if I do that, I'm an asshole, and I shouldn't be holding this office.
And likewise the other way around.
Right, because you're representing the people. You should be doing the people's business, right? So my take on this is that this is, again, just partisan fighting, infighting. And who gets hurt by all of this? We do.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So these polls demonstrate that. And then, of course, there are some other polls that show that the impeachment hearings, people are tuning it out because they're like, this is ridiculous. There's nothing here. This is like watching a schoolyard fight.
Yeah.
After a while, you're like, okay, I'm going home.
Exactly.
That's really what it is, right?
It's just dragging on.
It's just dragging on. And I think that most people don't realize that an impeachment is really just an indictment, right? It's like if someone said to you, Rachel, I'm going to file a criminal complaint because you have too long of a hair. You have too long well, not one hair, but you have long hair, right?
Yeah, my hair is too long.
Your hair is too long, yes. Right? So I can accuse that, and then you go to court, and the court would say, DJ, this is ridiculous. I'm acquitting Rachel, and I'm throwing this case out or whatever, right? So the indictment, the indictment is just an accusation, right? It's not a criminal anything. It's an indictment. Then it is going to go to the Senate, right, where the Republicans control the Senate. So what's going to happen is they're going to have a trial. They're going to start a trial.
Yeah,
they're going to call witnesses, and they're going to say this is a ridiculous sham, and we're ending it. So all of this is for naught.
Well, no, maybe it might not be because, again, you have the direct split, and it might have been better than it was before. Maybe people before were like, impeach Trump. Why? I mean, specifically maybe Democrats or people who are in the middle, they would say, impeach Trump, and they'll think, why do that now? And then at this point, they're starting to lean more into their party or leaning more into the arguments and being like, caught up in all this crap. It's theater so that you can be more involved and you will vote in the favor of the people pushing it.
Maybe that might help, but I also think it's going to I have the feeling it's going to backfire.
Oh, it's absolutely going to backfire.
I think the Democrat people are going to be like, screw you.
Yeah, they're going fucking scorched earth at this point.
Yeah, because you know why? They're too far along to quit. Either way, they lose.
Exactly.
And either way, Trump wins. And so it's interesting to watch, but it's actually sad to watch because really the real losers in this are us.
Yeah, I mean they're pushing it so hard that it's just going to leave us with the damn fallout.
I think that what is their end game here? What could they be thinking? First of all, I think any Democrat that is vulnerable in the House and Senate elections coming up, I'm sorry, in the House elections that are coming up, maybe the Senate elections, are going to have to carry this with them, and people are going to be mad.
Yeah.
Especially if the Senate squashes this and it comes out, they cross-examine some of these people, and it turns out that there really is nothing illegal here, but that this was just I hate the outcome of the election, and I hate you as the president, and I want to remove you.
Yeah.
That's going to have a big backlash. And I think that the Trump supporters, the deplorables, as they've been called, they're going to go to the polls en masse, or whatever.
Yeah.
They're going. A lot of them are going to the polls.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. So they can say whatever they want. There's no politician that is on the Democratic side that remotely has a chance right now. And even Bloomberg, who has a ton of money. So let's get this straight. We hate this billionaire and all of his money, but we're gonna trade for that billionaire.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders should be like, we're fighting against billionaires. Now we have one within our midst. It's a shit show.
I agree.
And so I think it's a foregone conclusion. By the way, and then the job numbers just came out, and 266,000 new jobs were created. I mean, how do they overcome all of this crap? Now, if you're smart, you'll know that 266,000 jobs could be 266,000 low-paying jobs or part-time jobs or whatever.
And that could be a regular number that's been in place like every year. So
it's the optic of it.
Exactly.
It's the optic, and so he's winning. He's winning that argument. So
yeah.
So let's talk let's talk before the break. I want to talk a little bit about what is impeachment. Do you know what impeachment is?
Generally, but not entirely.
Well, impeachment is a way for the Congress, namely the House of Representatives, to begin the process of removing a president who is engaged in either criminal behavior or behavior that discredits the United States or the office of the president, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the founders of the United States included impeachment in the Constitution as an option for removal of presidents by Congress.
Yeah.
Right? That's part of the checks and balances. Impeachment itself is a concept in English law, English common law, right? And is one of more of the hotly debated points among the Constitutional Convention in 1787, I believe, in Philadelphia. Some of the delegates there agreed that presidents could be removed if found guilty by Congress of treason, bribery,
anything extreme,
or other quote-unquote high crimes and misdemeanors. And that's the thing here. Treason or bribery are very specific.
Yeah.
High crimes and misdemeanors
are not.
And that's a big catch-all. So they look at what's called the emoluments clause of the Constitution, quid pro quo, whatever. Anyway, the sole authority under the Constitution to bring articles of impeachment is vested in the House of Representatives, which is what we've been watching. And like I said, it's like they bring an indictment. They hear the evidence, and then they, based on the evidence, they say, okay, there's enough there to indict this president to go to court, right? And they begin in the Judiciary Committee. Now, if the House approves articles of impeachment, which most likely looks like it's going to happen, or impeaches a president, he or she then would be subjected to a trial in the Senate, right? And that's the thing. The problem I have is that the discovery phase, which is calling witnesses and subpoenaing documents and so forth,
gathering evidence,
has been so one-sided that it's hard to think that this is an impartial investigation. So only because they have a majority in the House will the House of Representatives most likely vote to impeach the president. Now, Mike Pence said in an interview the other day that everybody's saying that that's going to happen, but it's not a foregone conclusion that all the Democrats are going to vote. They may not get the votes to impeach the president.
Yeah,
right?
It's highly possible.
It's highly possible. I don't think so, but it's possible.
Yeah.
But under the Constitution, the president, vice president, and all civil officers of the United States can be removed from office for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. They can all do that, right? To begin the impeachment proceedings, though, a House member can introduce an impeachment resolution, which was what we're waiting on now, or the entire House can vote to initiate an investigation into whether there are grounds for impeachment. And the House Judiciary Committee or a special committee will then investigate, and then the panel will vote on whether to bring it to the full House. That's where we are. It's about ready to do that, right? And if the House votes to impeach, the matter moves to the Senate where the trial is held. And do you know who presides over the trial?
No.
The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will preside over the trial. And two-thirds majority of the Senate, there are 100 senators, so two-thirds of them are required to vote to convict and remove a president.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
No, of course not.
I mean, they may get 3. You know what I mean? And those are rhinos. You know what a rhino is? You ever heard that term?
No, actually.
Republican in name only.
That's really funny.
Do you know what's funny?
Like that.
I have to segue off of this a little bit. But Congress and inside the Beltway bubble, as they sometimes call it, it's just like fucking having being on a college fraternity where they have like little nicknames for themselves and little special names for Biffy and Buffy. You know,
they treasure that.
Yeah, they treasure that. And I think that from what I've seen and from what I've learned so far, this is more about a preservation of power than anything else. And Trump is so unpredictable and so crazy that he's a threat to their power of the way it's always been.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of where this is going. Anyway, do you know which presidents have been impeached? How many?
How many? I think no. Actually impeached?
Yep.
0.
Nope. That's not right.
Oh. 2. So it would have been Nixon and...
Nope.
Not Nixon. Oh, shit. No, you've told me this before. Oh, God, I completely forgot. Yeah.
Welcome to Uncle DJ's class on American history and constitutional understanding.
Educate me.
2 presidents have been successfully impeached. Neither one were convicted in the Senate.
Oh, okay.
Okay? They were impeached. So Andrew Johnson was impeached in 1868.
Right.
And that was mainly because of the tumultuousness after the Civil War.
Yeah.
And he was at loggerheads with Congress, right? And then Bill Clinton in 1998. 1998. 1998. Because of the Monica Lewinsky thing. I did not have sex with that woman, Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, and then perjury and all that.
Yeah. Both times the House approved formal charges and impeached the president, only to have the Senate fail to convict and remove them.
Right.
Now, here's an interesting fact. Everyone always thinks that Nixon was impeached.
No, but they started.
They started it. In 1974, they voted to recommend impeachment, accusing Nixon. I think the article or the charge was obstructing an investigation in the Watergate scandal. But before the full House could vote, he resigned.
Yep.
I love that. I used to love doing an impression of Nixon. I am not a crook.
And I could be wrong here, but yeah, I was listening to some stuff about Nixon and what I remember from school. Wasn't he generally really loved before all of this? Like, wasn't he like he won the presidency by a lot, and then by the time the Watergate scandal came around, weren't a lot of people kind of changing their minds on him? Yeah.
So Nixon is an interesting character, and it's an interesting story about redemption. So Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, beat him in the first election. I think it was 1960.
Right. And
it's the first time a debate was televised.
Yes. So.
And Nixon wasn't used to the bright light, so he always looked like he was sweating.
Yep. He looked nervous as shit.
And that's how people sort of said, "Oh, I'm not going to vote for him. He looks shifty."
Yeah.
Right. So Kennedy got elected, and then of course he got assassinated.
Yeah.
Right. And so, no, wait, I'm getting this wrong. I'm getting my history screwed up here. Nixon ran for the presidency after he was the vice president with Eisenhower.
Yep.
And Kennedy defeated him. Right? And then, was it John? Oh, yeah, Johnson. Johnson became the president after Nixon. And then after, when Johnson decided not to run for re-election, then Nixon ran and won. Right? So the first time he won was by a healthy margin. But the second time he ran, I think it was 1970, he won by a landslide.
Right.
Right? And he was loved because he opened negotiations with China. The economy was doing well.
He had a lot under his belt.
Right. He was getting us out of Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a big deal. I remember that. Actually, I remember that when I was a kid, that when that happened, like that big news announcement that the war in Vietnam was over. Yeah,
and a lot of people, that's a big reason, LBJ, I remember a lot of people were kind of remember him for that, even though he did a lot of other things. Obviously, every president does, but the funny thing is that, he got a lot of flack for Vietnam specifically, and then Nixon comes and gets a lot of the credit for what happens after. Does a lot of reconstructing, which is pretty interesting.
Well, and so he resigned in disgrace.
Yes.
And then for a lot of years he was in seclusion and out of the limelight. But towards the end of his life, he started to get redeemed, and people started saying, "Okay, Watergate sucked, and he should have resigned," and he did resign, but he also did a lot of good. And here's the thing: I thought that would be the same thing with Clinton. He is not redeemable because now I just read an article today that he had like 26 flights on that Jeffrey Epstein's plane where they had sex with underage girls and whatever. I think there's so much dirt about that man it's only going to continue to come out. He's just a sleazebag. I'm sorry. He is. He was a good president. He was a good president, especially in his first term.
Yeah.
But in his second term, he's just a hound dog. I mean, for God's sakes, he's not even that good looking. Anyway, but I digress a little bit. But that's that's kind of where we are with impeachment right now. It's getting ready to go to the full Senate, so that's a perfect time. I mean, for the full House for a vote. So that's a perfect time to take a break. So we're gonna take a break. We're gonna hear a commercial from our friends at Joe Eats World, and when we come back, we'll pick up this understanding of impeachment. So don't go away. Don't go away anywhere. You're listening to the DJ Doran Show, and we'll be right back. This episode of the DJ Doran Show is brought to you by our friends at Joe Eats World, featuring Chef Joe Morales as he eats and drinks his way through life, sharing recipes, dining experiences, and cooking tips. Be sure to follow him at joeeatsworld.com and on his Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You're listening to the DJ Doran Show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Call 312-235-2281 to speak to DJ.
All right. Well, we're back, and I'm here with my co-host, Rachel B., and we're talking about impeachment, like the impeachment of President Trump. So we were just talking about who has been impeached, successfully impeached. So far, no president has been impeached and convicted and removed from office.
Yeah.
They've just been impeached. So who would become president if Trump is impeached? Do you know?
The vice president?
The vice president. So he'd be the first one. So he would automatically elevate the vice president, Mike Pence, to become president to complete Trump's term, which ends on January 20th, 2021.
Which I still find hilarious that people forget. That's what would happen.
You think we have it bad with Trump? If that
man.
If that wackadoodle gets in the White House?
Oh, God, no.
You know, he was the governor of Indiana when we lived in Indiana. I'm telling you from firsthand experience, him and his crazy religious wackadoodle wife, if they got into the presidency, I can't even imagine what this country would evolve into. Plus, he has no backbone. The power in that relationship is his wife, Karen, just FYI. So we would have our first female president, and Pence would be the puppet. So he would be in charge, right? So did you know that criminal charges can't be brought against the sitting president? However, the Constitution does allow for separate criminal charges once a president is removed. So there's a good chance that if Trump was impeached and convicted, that right after he got out of office, by the way, that conviction only removes him from it's not a criminal conviction.
Yeah.
It just removes him from the office
and
of the president.
That's the entire purpose of impeachment altogether.
But then after he was removed, then he is now the shield of protection of being the president from criminal prosecution would be removed, and he could be charged criminally. So let's, before we talk about what's at the center of the Ukrainian phone call, that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about impeachment, what it means, right? So tell me, it's not a criminal proceeding. It doesn't risk like forfeiture of life, liberty, or property, or the only penalty is removal from office, and it has to be by 2/3, right? It can be not only on a federal level too. We always think of it impeachment for the president, but it can be on the state level for a judge or something like that too. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yep. So there are only 3 grounds for impeachment, which I think is funny.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's 3 stated grounds, but really the third one is pretty much all encompassing. Like, I think you have a small dick. We're impeaching you. Right? Treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. And the definition of high crimes and misdemeanors is so nebulous that it can literally be you can just basically put whatever you want in there. And the precise meaning of the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors is not even defined by the Constitution itself.
Nope. Which is insanity. I mean,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So somebody could say, Rachel, I'm indicting you on high crimes and misdemeanors.
And I'll be like, okay, what did I do?
High crimes and misdemeanors.
It's like, all right, I don't know what that means.
High crimes and misdemeanors. I just want to keep saying that because that's what I hear with with this whole impeachment process. And the notion that only criminal conduct can constitute sufficient grounds for impeachment does not comport with either the views of the founders or with actual historical practice. You know, Alexander Hamilton, you know who he is?
A little bit.
Okay, Alexander Hamilton was one of the founding fathers. In the Federalist 65, described impeachable offenses as arising from the misconduct of public men, or in other words, from the abuse or violation of some public trust. So if you're an elected official, if you act in a way that is considered misconduct, or if you violate or abuse the public trust, that would be considered high crimes and misdemeanors. That's what the House is trying to say. They're trying to say that this call with Ukraine holding up financial aid to the country in exchange for investigating the Bidens is an abuse of the public trust, the abuse of power, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of the crux of it. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But such offenses like that are usually construed as political, as they relate chiefly to the injuries done immediately to the society itself. This is what Alexander Hamilton said.
Oh, okay.
According to this reasoning, impeachable conduct could include behavior that violates an official's duty to the country, even if such conduct is not necessarily a prosecutable offense. This is what I thought was interesting.
That is very interesting.
He can be impeached even if what he did is not really breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
If it is just perceived as violating the public trust or general misconduct while in office, that's all they need. They don't have to have a specific "you broke the law," which I thought was fascinating.
Well, when you think about it, like more specifically, thinking about how high on the food chain a sitting president is, it's a lot harder to understand the restrictions and, you know, specifically, you know, the legal stuff you have to box in. I mean, you know, a president's reach is really, really far.
It's really, really far, and you have to be. You know, you have to be really careful, but, you know, it's like I said, it's not necessarily a prosecutable offense. And as a matter of fact, in the past, both houses of Congress have given the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors, and I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah.
You can't see that because we're on radio, but I'm doing air quotes.
Think about it this way, or think about this one thing. Remember back when, way back before all this crap, Trump talked about, on live TV, it's like, hey, why don't you come investigate Hillary Clinton, all right? And then it immediately happened and yada yada, all that big story. I mean, understanding, you know, everything you just said, you can basically point at that and be like, that's impeachable, even though it wasn't technically illegal.
Well, not really. You know why?
Why?
Because he wasn't elected yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It only happens. You have to be elected. So
exactly.
That wouldn't be. Now, if he did that while he was in office, yes.
And that's what I meant. Yeah, you can point at that, something like that, as in to be impeached and yet still not, you know, be technically illegal.
Right, and both houses of Congress in the past, anyway, you know, have given the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors a broad reading, finding, you know, that these impeachable offenses, they don't have to be limited to criminal conduct.
Exactly.
Like I said, it could be that.
Could be anything.
And the purposes underlying the impeachment process also have always indicated that non-criminal activity also may constitute sufficient grounds for impeachment. The purpose of impeachment, if you think about it, is not to inflict personal punishment or for criminal activity. Instead, impeachment is a remedial tool, so to speak, to maintain constitutional government by removing individuals that are unfit for office. So, like, if somebody is elected to office to represent the people and, you know, they take bribes or they are disrespectful or, you know, they incite...
Not bribes.
Or they incite violence or whatever, then, you know, they're disrespecting the office and they're, you know, it may not be criminal because of the Second Amendment.
But if enough people want, or if enough people are angry about it, they will.
Right, and grounds for impeachment, can also include like an abuse of the particular powers of government.
True.
You know, like I'm going to use the Department of Justice to go after Rachel.
Exactly.
You know, because I don't like you and whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what that's for, you know. And so in drawing up the articles of impeachment, the House places little emphasis on the criminal side of things, but they they focus more on the violation of like, how do I say this?
Public trust?
No, they less than 1/3 of the articles that the House have adopted have explicitly charged the violation of a criminal statute or used the word criminal or crime to describe the conduct, right? So if you think about that, and some officials have been impeached or removed for here's a couple examples that I read about: drunkenness, public drunkenness,
interesting,
biased decision making. I'm not going to hire Rachel because I don't like long-haired people that wear glasses and have olive skin. Or inducing parties to enter financial transactions, or whatever. They're not specifically criminal.
Yeah. Public drunkenness is.
Well, it is, but I mean, it's not like. I think that the thing that I read, it didn't say I misspoke. It's not public drunkenness, drunkenness. Like, let's say let's say the president is drunk in his office, or he's drunk in whatever. He can't do his job,
Yeah.
And this is the thing that was funny. 2 of the articles against President Johnson were based on rude speech. Can you imagine that?
Dude, read some of his speeches. They're pretty messed up.
They are?
They are, yeah. They're really
That
wild.
reflected badly on the office. And President Johnson made harangues. I love that word. Harangues criticizing the Congress and questioning its legislative authority.
Yeah, he was a loudmouth.
Right. Refusing to follow laws and diverting funds allocated in an Army Appropriations Act, each of which brought the presidency into contempt, ridicule, and disgrace. And a number of individuals have been impeached for behavior incompatible with their nature of office they hold. Some impeachments have addressed, at least in part, conduct before the individuals assume their positions, like Trump, right? Mm-hmm. For example, Article 4 against Judge Thomas Porcius related to false statements to the FBI and Senate in connection with his nomination and confirmation to the court. He wasn't on the court, but in the process of getting nominated, right?
Yeah.
But then, on the other hand, the Constitutional Convention rejected language that would have permitted impeachment for maladministration, with Madison arguing that so vague a term will be equivalent to a tenure during pleasure at the Senate, basically saying, if you're just not good at your job but there's no malicious intent, we can't impeach you for that, right? So that's kind of basically what impeachment is. And I'm reading a couple of things like, not all criminal conduct is impeachable. For example, we were talking about Nixon earlier. The 1974 Judiciary Committee rejected an article impeachment against President Nixon, alleging that he committed tax fraud primarily because that related to the president's private conduct, not to an abuse of his authority as president.
So
see what I mean?
Outside of office, he probably would have
No, while he was the president.
Yeah.
But his...
No, I'm saying outside of the office, he probably would have been prosecuted by a completely different thing,
by the IRS.
Body. Yeah, exactly. Completely different body of people.
But the thing is him being a tax fraud was his personal affairs.
Exactly.
Had nothing to do with his role as the president.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So so it didn't have so several commentators have suggested that Congress alone may decide for itself what constitutes high crime and misdemeanor. That's scary.
Yes, it is.
Hey, I don't like ferns. That's a high crime and misdemeanor. You know what I mean? It's so ridiculous that they have that kind of power.
Yeah.
And but there are 17. Here's an interesting fact. No official has been charged with treason. No president has been charged with treason. However, in 1797, Senator Blount was impeached for assisting Britain in capturing Spanish territory. In 1862, a judge was impeached and convicted for siding with the Confederacy and taking a position as a Confederate judge during the Civil War. So they've been from the federal level, at the president's level, all the way down through at the state level, judges and things like that.
Yeah.
So let's read a little bit here. This is impeachment is set in motion by charges made on the floor, charges by a memorial, a member's resolution referred to a committee, a message from the president, or from facts developed and reported by an investigating committee of the House. I just find that for an impeachment, they're going after Trump, whether you like him or not, is irrelevant. They're going after a human being, not on the facts of a criminal behavior, but because they don't like him as the president.
Yeah.
And the high crimes and misdemeanors clause portion of that allows them to do that because they don't have to be specific. They don't have to bring a specific criminal charge.
Mm-hmm.
They can just say, you know what? We don't like the way you spoke to the Ukrainian president, so we're going to impeach you.
Well, to play devil's advocate on that, it just remember though, this is also like everything you kind of talk about when it comes to the guidelines of impeachment and everything. It kind of reminds me of just any workplace. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody shows up and, you know, it's not necessarily illegal to make a bad decision at work, but at the same time, if you do it repeatedly, and you get it, and like you piss off enough of your coworkers or anything like that, they can get you fired. They can point to the rules and regulations of your office space and say, hey, you're going against this thing that we all follow. You can't work here anymore. So, like, when you think about it in more of that kind of space, I guess it makes a little more sense.
It does. But the truth of the matter is, we're talking about the center of controversy for this impeachment process.
Yeah.
The Democrats have not had a really good track record of success going after Trump. So, first it was Russian collusion and the Mueller report, and that was a bust.
There haven't been many.
And then it was bribery, and now it's Ukraine, and then it was, it's going to be whatever and whatever.
Grasping at straws at this point.
You're right. And so, but what's at the center? Like, for instance, let's get to why is he being impeached? What's the issue? Pelosi in the beginning wasn't really on board with impeaching, but she's more of a moderate Democrat, but you have a very radical left-leaning part of the party that hate him.
And if you're not on that agenda, you may not hold that seat
That's
anymore.
Right. So what the crux of it is what they're saying is that President Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, was entitled to financial aid, and Trump, when he was the president, through Giuliani, basically said, if you don't investigate Biden and Biden's son Hunter, we're going to hold up the financial aid. Is that wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to that is, according to a Supreme Court ruling in Texas, is that quid pro quo with government officials and government agents is not necessarily wrong. I can say as the government, I'm not going to give you funding unless you clean up the fraud in your government, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
So, and they ruled that. So what is it about this that makes it impeachable? Using Obama and Clinton and even Bush going back, each one of these presidents have used the leverage of quid pro quo to get what they wanted.
That is true.
Obama with the Iranians, said, if you do this, we'll do that.
Uh-huh.
If you boil it down to really just doing business, saying, hey, I'm not obligated to give you foreign aid.
Exactly.
But if you want our foreign aid, this is what you have to do. It's just like, and anything else. Hey, I'm not if a carpenter comes to my house and gives me a bid to do work, and I get a couple of other bids, and I say, okay, if you do this, I'll give you the bid.
Yeah.
Is that illegal? No, it's not. So why is this? Why is this?
Oh man, that's a good question.
It's not that. It's not as though we were withholding Ukrainian assets hostage and said, you either investigate the Bidens or we're not going to give you what is yours. Do you follow me?
I'm following.
What we're saying is we have money that we are willing to give to you freely in the form of foreign aid, but not until you do this.
Just sounds like business transactions
Right.
to me.
All I'm saying is if you boil all of the ideological craziness away, we have the right to do that. We were not obligated. Do you hear me? We were not obligated to give Ukraine foreign aid. We're not obligated to do that. So if we want him to do something, fine. Now, you can say, is it unseemly? Is it trying to affect an election? Okay. In that space, I'll grant you, that is unseemly for a president to say, hey, I want you to investigate my opponent, and I will give you the aid that we promised you if you do that, right? That's the part that I don't completely agree with. And I think that if he did do that, then then yes, it's right. He should be impeached.
Mm-hmm.
He should be, because that is not the way it works.
Nope.
However, the witnesses that have come forth have not said that. Even the president of Ukraine said, no, I didn't feel any pressure. He didn't even know the aid was withheld.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no, like...
That's pretty funny.
You know what I mean? So the Democrats are making, this is purely a political and ideological fight between the two parties. And it's a struggle for the heart, mind, and soul of this country, where we're going. So a whistleblower, who, by the way, is a Democratic-leaning supporter, this is not like objective, like, hey, I'm just trying to do the right thing. This is somebody who has an agenda and saw an opportunity to go after the president. And there's just so much coming out. I can tell you that when this goes to the Senate, Rachel, when the Republicans start calling Biden to the witness stand, and his son, who made like $50,000 a month, who knew nothing about gas or anything, for some Ukrainian oil and gas company, it's gonna get bad. It's gonna get so bad. So that's kind of I don't know about you, but it's gonna be awfully hard for them to unseat or remove a president when the economy is booming. We're at peace. We have some respect around the world. I just think that Democrats overplayed their hand so bad.
I agree with you. And the funny thing is that, you're not gonna, the only way you can ever affect Trump's, standing of where he is and on his power and what, the minds he has in the country is if his supporters specifically start disagreeing with his decisions. Until that happens, though, like you say, it's split directly down the middle. So he's not gonna shake off his seat at all. And I agree with you. Yeah, his base is too loyal to him, man.
His base is too loyal, and I even think some Democrats are like, I don't want to be on this sinking ship. I do. I really believe that. And I think that in the next week or so, truthfully, once they impeach him, then they've shown their cards that Senate is going to destroy it. Yeah. It's just going to happen. And then after that, what are they going to do? What do they have? Impeach him again?
And the thing that pisses me off the most about this, and in a selfish way, is that with my back up against the wall, like, I'm never going to vote for Trump, no matter what. All his entire track record is just a lot of things that I don't agree with, a lot of things I don't like, and a lot of things I don't want in a president doing, like decisions he's made and stuff like that. And then, so I have the choice of voting for whoever is going to be on the ballot, and that kind of sucks.
Well, that's the problem. The problem is that the Democrats are going to, I predict, you heard it here, folks, on the DJ Doran Show, Trump is going to win in a landslide.
Which, is depressing as shit.
And so, at that point, the Democratic Party will be completely emasculated.
Agreed.
The far left is going to be, disenfranchised and powerless. I also believe that the Republicans are going to take back the Senate. I mean, the House.
And the hilarious thing is that you could have spent all of this time to be building your side up stronger than the other side. Yep.
Nope. They wasted 3 years, and people are going to remember that at the polling place, and then we'll have 4 more years of whatever. Man. And here's the thing. I think if the Democrats lose the House and they lose the presidency this election, they're going to be in the desert for a long time.
Oh, yes. It's going to be a lot of recovery.
And here's another thing, too, that people are not really talking about because they're talking about everything else.
Yeah.
And that is the judiciary. Trump is appointing judges. That's
left and fucking right. No one pays attention.
No one's paying attention. Insane. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg is like Darth Vader right now. She's being kept alive by machines and puppet strings.
It's so true, though.
I really believe that. I don't know how she's alive. She had a stroke. She has pancreatic cancer.
She fell down
and broke her hip and whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if she's just a meat suit and somebody has her hand up her back just doing that. But she she is not going to. I can tell you, she is not going to live through a second Trump presidency.
I don't think so.
So that means he's going to appoint another judge, another Supreme Court justice, which is going to have far-ranging implications. And the thing where I disagree with Trump more than anything is his judicial picks. They're some of them are radical, a little bit more radical to the right than I care to. If he picks another radical right-wing judge, it's going to be tough for the liberals at that point. You know, even he already appointed someone to the circuit court in San Francisco that was like a stalwart Democrat liberal bastion to always put a stop on things. Now it's split evenly.
That's
one
insane,
more judge,
dude.
and that I think it's the Ninth Circuit Court. I think that's what it is, but I'm not sure. But it's in San Francisco. That's going to make a big difference. He's almost like a magician. He's like, I'm going to create all this chaos over here, but don't look over here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to appoint all these judges, and they're going to get pushed through the House and the Senate,
which is freaking crazy, man.
So, and then one thing too that I don't know, since you haven't really watched the hearings, but one thing I noticed, that a little pickup point that I noticed, is that Republicans want to talk about Joe Biden more than Trump. They're focusing more on the process than on the substance of the allegations.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is the Democrats have embarrassed themselves and have pissed me off. The Republicans are just as bad.
I agree.
It is not like, hey, it's all they're both shitty.
Oh my God!
They're both shitty,
and
so my view is that both of them are equal. And by that polling data that we talked about earlier, where they're split, it's almost a mirror image.
Yeah.
Just shows you how partisan this is.
When it really fucking shouldn't be.
When it shouldn't be. So it's going to be a fascinating time, but I also think that it's going to be a tumultuous time. And I was just telling someone the other day, I said, I feel like I've been in like this fight for 3 years.
Yep.
And I'm exhausted.
It's a tiring process.
I'm exhausted.
It's been an exhausting presidency so far.
It's been a very exhausting presidency. So, it's one of those things that is interesting, and we're living through part of history. And I know that we'll survive it. We always survive. We've had bad presidents in the past. We've survived it. We've had hostile Congresses. It's not the first time.
No.
But this is the first time that it's really energized the vitriol between people that disagree. And one of the things that I always like to say is, I remember when you could disagree, you could have a vehement disagreement with a friend or a colleague or what have you, and then say, okay, let's go to dinner. That is what I think is dying.
Yeah, and I see exactly that, yeah.
And someone says, oh, you support this, what Trump's doing? I don't want to be friends with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you. No.
And politics is bleeding into everything
and
now.
Politics now bleeds into everything. And so people used to say, it used to be race. Could be race, or it was
True.
race. Now it's, what's your party affiliation? Which really kind of sounds Naziist in a way if you think about it. Are you a member of the party?
Yeah, right.
And whoever's in power, then it's their role to trounce on the opposition party. And on my show, what I want to say is like, hey, all viewpoints are respected. I want to be educated. If I have a certain viewpoint or an opinion about a topic, then I want to hear why I should change my mind. I'm open to that. I want you to challenge what I'm saying and say, hey, DJ, have you thought of it this way? And I want to be able to challenge you and say, Rachel, have you thought of it that way before? And be open-minded enough to sort of to be willing to be educated and change your mind, because nothing's intractable. Nothing in fucking life is intractable. You have every right to change your mind 100 times over if new information is brought to light, or if a better understanding is offered.
Hell, if we've learned that in any place in our community, we have absolutely learned that and have been taught by it.
Yes. So just because you're a Democrat doesn't mean that you can't find something good within the Republican Party.
Exactly.
If you become so close-minded, like an editor of mine said, I'm blue all the way through. I vote blue all the way through. I said, do you even research the candidate? I don't have to. I vote blue all the way through. He's a Democrat, right? That's totally wrong. It's the same thing for, vote for red or be dead.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. That is absolutely wrong. You should vote after you understand who's the best candidate, red or blue.
Yeah.
And I voted for reds and blues based on their positions and based on, what I know about them. So that's what my show is about is I want to be different. I am not part of anybody's demographic that they can take for granted. I am a free thinker. I want to know about the issues. It's important to me to have the facts. It's important to me to have an understanding of the facts. It's important to me to have a passion about what I believe in. It's important to me to be willing to be open to be challenged by what I believe. To me, that is what is missing. And just because I'm gay doesn't mean I'm a left-wing liberal.
Goddamn right. Dude, a lot of people think the same of me when I'm colored and trans. They assume all my freaking affiliations, but I'm like, no, dude, you have to know me. I have a lot of different ideas
or opinions.
Exactly.
Or you're learning as you go along. I totally agree with that. But I got to call you on something. Someone told me that you shouldn't call transgender people trans. That they don't like it.
They can go fuck themselves. I like saying it. Listen, all right, y'all. If y'all are gonna get mad at me, that's fine. All right, but I'm one of you, and I use what's comfortable for me. I like saying trans. It works for me.
I'm just saying. It took me 7 months before I finally got your pronouns straightened out. And everybody I know says, "How hard can that be? If she wants to be called she, that should be it." So I totally get it, but. Anyway, I just thought I would poke at you a little bit.
Yeah.
But, believe it or not, we talked about this for an hour already.
Yeah, it's wild,
It's gone. It was pretty interesting. So
it's a big topic.
It's a good topic. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we're going to do some closing thoughts. We'll tell you about our next show, where you can find us or whatever. But, you're listening to the DJ Doran Show, where knowledge is power, and we yearn to have a better understanding about the topics and the things that we talk about, whether it's politics, current events, alien abduction, or everything in between.
Just remember to keep an open mind.
And one of my interns came up with this thing that I thought was kind of cool as a slogan. It says he said LGBT, let's get bold together.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of cool.
I like that.
So I'm thinking about adopting that. So Casey, if you're listening, that is, or if you hear this podcast, I'm attributing that to you. So anyway, you're listening to the DJ Doran Show. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the DJ Doran Show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Call 312-235-2281 to speak to DJ.
I'm so far away, and I can't see for good. Any chance that I clear the background, I will say I would. Yeah, I would. Face the arrows clear, like I should. Face the arrows clear, like I would.
All right, that was abrupt. I forgot
bit.
a little bit abrupt, but welcome back. You're listening to the DJ Doran Show. So we've been talking about impeachment, what it is, what it was meant for, what are the terms, what this whole impeachment hearing and this whole impeachment process against President Trump has been about. So hopefully you learned a little bit, and we challenge you to study more about what is impeachment, why is President Trump being impeached, is it right, or is it just a political tool? But that's what we were talking about this show, and I think it was interesting. What about you?
Oh no, there were a lot of things I definitely did not know beforehand. That's really, really cool, and I'm glad I got this entirely new insight on this extremely complicated time.
Well, impeachment itself is not complicated,
No.
Rachel, but how they're using the tool of impeachment,
Yeah.
that's what's the most fascinating.
Oh, I don't mean complicated in specifically the impeachment. I'm saying complicated in discussing impeachment with other people and the climate of how this is viewed and the effects it has on people. That shit is complicated.
So here's a couple of bullet points that I think are important. One is impeachment is like an indictment.
Mhm.
It's not he's not found guilty. It's just an indictment. Someone's making an accusation. Impeachment does not have to be for a criminal offense. It could be behavioral or disrespect to the office, like we said, or whatever. And that the Senate trial is a trial. They bring witnesses and cross-examine and whatever. It's presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. But even if he's convicted and removed from office, it's not a criminal process. So if you think about all of that, then you realize that a lot of this is political theater.
Oh, yes.
And it should outrage you. It outrages me. Now, granted, is Trump a horrible president? Absolutely, without question. Is he a buffoon? Absolutely, without question. Has he done anything that requires him being removed from office? I don't think so. I don't think so. I just don't think so. Now, I could be totally wrong, but I don't think so. By the basis of law.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Now, they're impeaching him using high crimes and misdemeanors in this broad and nebulous way to say, hey, we don't like the fact that you got elected. We don't like the way you are acting as the president. We don't care whether these accusations are legitimate or not. We're going to make these accusations because whatever we have to do to get you out of office, we're going to do it. That's what this is about. And unfortunately, they have done precious little to convince me otherwise.
And they've done very little to convince people who are unsure about who to vote for this upcoming election to convince them outside of what is being told at them.
Absolutely. I think that the Democrats, number one, shot themselves in the foot.
Absolutely.
I think after the Mueller report, they were like, we're in too deep. We have to go forward.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if we don't go forward, it's going to be devastating to some of the Democrats that are up for re-election in the next election cycle.
Yep.
So they went forward and they're going forward, but they know, you cannot tell me that in the privacy of their own conclave that they sit down and say, we're fucked.
Right.
We are. We're fucked. So we just got to basically, what do you do when your back's up against the wall?
Yeah.
You just
You keep
go for
swinging.
it.
Yeah.
You go for it because guess what? You have nothing to lose. You're going to lose anyway.
Yeah.
So you have nothing further to lose. So you know what? At least go down fighting. And now I think that's what's happening, quite frankly. So we're at the end of the show. So before I go, I wanted to sort of tell people that, number one, we're on iHeartRadio now. So if you're on iHeartRadio, on the iHeartRadio app, look for the DJ Doran Show.
Hell
there,
yeah.
I think there are 14 episodes on there that you can download and listen, and we'd love to hear your feedback. We're on Stitcher, Podomatic, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict. I mean, we're everywhere.
Yep.
Wherever you can find a podcast, that's where we are. So we would love for you to follow us, subscribe, give us some support by listening to the show. Let us know what you think so that we can improve. And on that note, we will see you next week sometime. We upload a new podcast every Monday, but I was telling Rachel earlier, and I'll mention it here, that for the rest of December, we're going to do offline recording, but beginning January 1st, all of our shows are going to be done live.
Doing it live, baby.
Live, and it'll have a call-in feature, so you can call in the number for the show and actually talk to us during the show, just like a radio show.
Hell yeah.
So we're very excited about that. So next week's show, we're not sure what we're going to talk about, but if you go to our Facebook page, the DJ Doran Show, or you can go to my Twitter at DJ Doran Show, we're going to post what the next topic will be during our show on Monday. Until then, thank you for joining us. Rachel, it's been great. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you next week. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for listening to another edition of the DJ Doran Show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Podomatic, Stitcher, and all of the other major podcasting sites. Just search for The DJ Doran Show.